I want to share with you something that I'm sitting with this morning. A lot of times, our best offerings come from our own experience rather than just wisdom and rather than just knowledge, right? Wisdom comes from the actual lived experience. And so I'm having a lived experience this morning and feeling the call to share it because I feel that it may be useful to someone out there, even if it's just one person. So, one thing that I do for myself and with my clients is I pull cards from this archetype deck called the Wild Unknown Archetypes. It's by Kim Krantz. She's a beautiful artist. And I pulled a couple of cards this morning. And so I don't have a regular practice where I just pull a card every day. Sometimes that's a good thing to do. I tend to wait until I am called. In other words, the cards come to mind and I have this sense, this intuition that there is a message for me that I would be helped by, or that would be helpful for me to sit with. And there are messages that can come through absolutely any avenue. You could go take a walk and find a feather, or find some repeating numbers on a house number, or something like that, right? So our messages can come through so many different places that there's no need necessarily, unless it's comforting and helpful for you to have a practice where you do it all the time. But for me, when I'm called, I go for it. And sometimes I do a full spread of a reading where I, sit with a big intention, big question, and I do that deliberately. So I was sitting with Hape this morning, which I also don't do all the time, but felt called. I have a video about Hape if you are interested in finding out what that is. It is an indigenous medicine. It's not psychedelic. Go watch that video. I go into a lot more detail about it. It is a beautiful, beautiful medicine, and I cherish it dearly. It always has deep insights for me, and I'm always just so grateful anytime I sit with it. So I was sitting with Hape this morning and felt the call of the cards. I actually brought the deck with me to my meditation spot where I sit with the medicine. And so it was time to pull the card, and I pull the card, and I'm going to show you which card I pulled. And I feel that this energy here, the destroyer, okay, this energy here is very relevant for our planet right now, our country right now, in a lot of ways. There are hurricanes that I've, been actually posting a little bit about and sharing my feelings about, and hoping to bring in some heart energy from those of us who can't necessarily offer any other aid, but acknowledging that our heart energy is very, very powerful and a beautiful offering. But there are so many other ways, right? The country, the world, the wars that are going on that are just escalating. And, however, when you pull a card, or when, let's say, I pull a card for a client, it is also, or I should say more closely, speaking to the personal, right? So when I saw this card, I immediately recoiled. I was like, oh no, not the destroyer, right? What's falling apart again, right? Or oh no, sometimes it's not a grief, it's a fear. It's like, oh shit, now what? What's gonna fall on me, right? What's happening? And because I was sitting with Hape, my thoughts were slower, and I was able to observe what I was feeling and going through, which is why I felt that it was helpful for me to share it with you. Um, I found myself wanting to reach for the book and go read what's in the book, because each archetype holds both the light and the shadow of itself, right? So the destroyer will still, even though it seems so dark and heavy and rough and unexpected and difficult, will still have something positive in it, not as a way of undoing the negative, but simply because everything has a polarity, right? So I caught myself wanting to go look up, well, what's the positive here? What's the good, right? Which meant I didn't want to sit with the heaviness and the pain and the darkness. I'll hold this up for you again, right? You see the eyes there, right? Piercing eyes, really sharp kind of energy. Something is constrained, something is broken at the same time. And messy, right? Messy. The Big Bang was messy, right? We're still living the Big Bang. So the insight I had, I realized that, I've been reading these cards for quite a while, a very long time for myself and a shorter time for clients, but still, I have a sense of how this works. And my insight was slow down, let yourself sit with the energy. And so I was sitting on my cushion. I set the card on the floor in front of me. And I just looked at it and I breathed and I sat with the energy of it and started receiving insights, right, that I just shared with you. And then I felt uncomfortable. It was still hard for me to sit with, even though and it's like grace, right? Give yourself grace. Again, I gave myself grace. I was like, okay, that is as long as I'm willing to sit with that particular discomfort. And now I'm going to pull another card and, either in support or in balance or something, right? And so I did. And it will still show you the truth. It's not, you cannot, get what you want in these. You're going to get what you need. And the second card that came up for me was a much sweeter card, which is the Maiden. And here's the beauty of the message with this. I'm going to just hold it up much closer. The Maiden, the beauty and the demonstration of the lesson that you get what you need and not what you want. The Maiden has the energy of the Maiden is innocence, naivete, right? Curiosity, excitement. Picture a 12, 13, 15-year-old young woman, girl, still girl, not young woman yet, but kind of edging into the energy of becoming a young woman. And the energy of the card is about that transition, right? It's about transitioning from the young woman into womanhood. And that is often a rite of passage and initiation. It doesn't simply happen when the woman gets her first moon cycle. It happens when, it's a gradual process. It's not an instantaneous thing. It happens through a series of processes that start to kind of dawn the awareness of, oh, wait, I'm different now, right? And it's hard to put into general language. It's very unique for each person. And so it was interesting. I was like, oh, pink, nice, the Maiden, soft, gentle, loving, sweet. And then I read, and I'm reading in the booklet, and it's like, you're going to fall down a rabbit hole. Let yourself, right? Let yourself get that initiation, which happens through the destroyer, right? Something old has to fall away. That is the destroyer. So I'm sharing this. It was a personal reading for me. However, because I felt called to share it, that tells me that there is someone out there who's listening to this who will resonate with what I'm sharing. And it becomes a reading for a bigger audience. I do trust that. I checked in with myself to see whether it was coming from ego, whether I was so uncomfortable that I wanted someone else to hold this energy. And even if that's a little bit there, the main the main thrust of this is that these insights around what is being destroyed, because it needs to be, right? No matter how painful, no matter, I mean, I can't, my heart breaks in a million pieces when I see people's homes washed away, their animals dying. It's unreal on the personal level. It's unreal to be living that kind of pain for people. And so I in no way am minimizing that or Pollyanna coloring it. I am attempting to ground myself and hopefully bring someone else along, anyone who watches this. And if you're still with me, bless you, with this conversation, of the fact that the destroyer archetype is with us right now. It's with us here. There is no avoiding it. If you do try to resist it, it only persists and gets stronger, because what has to happen is what has to happen, right? You can resist it, you can push it away for a while. Sometimes we get that option. You obviously can't push away a hurricane, but you can push away a difficult conversation or a breakup, or certain things you have a little leeway, but they're going to happen anyway, because they're happening for the revelation of that maturity that the maiden goes through and then becomes the woman, becomes mature, becomes initiated. Right. We are all being initiated. We have no idea what's coming. Some of us do energetically. I feel like a lot of us feel this sort of heaviness and what's coming down the pike. If you watch any astrology, the astrology is intense for October, the middle of October in particular. And we are being asked to sit. This is the hardest time, and this is why this is an initiation, and it's not just a little discomfort. We're asked to sit with the destroyer. So thank you for hanging in there. I hope that this has been helpful. Do check out my website for my offerings if you are called to go deeper, to do some transformative work. I can and do offer card readings as part of my sessions. I don't do them as standalone, but I suppose it's possible if there was interest. So yeah, the destroyer. I'm going to pause here. Let's take a breath together. Many blessings. So much love.